Aaron,
Russ, this is Mark with Equitable.
Mark Banks.
I'm gonna put the.
Russ with HSA.
Okay. Hey, Michael, did you send Aaron that?
I did.
Okay, good.
He is, I worked with him there for a few years as well. I had in 2000,
Aaron?
I was there from 97 to, 2006. Just had that, and I don't know what I did with it.
10 years to have that down. Now it sounds like someone's on.
Aaron?
Anyone on the phone?
Oh, hey, Sunshine from AHIP is here.
Hi, Sunshine from AHIP.
Hi.
It's sunshine in Utah. We have about 57 degrees out here.
10 degrees normal, above normal.
No,
It's January.
It's so nice.
It's really good.
It's
nice.
70
only
all
problem
week here.
The only problem is that we like to eat and drink, and that might not occur this summer.
Yeah, you know what? I think if you turn on your taps, water will still come out.
Do you think?
For sure.
It's gonna start costing a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna have a little price increase. Oh, right, yeah, there's some water under there.
I'm just sending, Dunnigan a message saying if he's having any trouble locating it. Just
Well, lots
text
of
me.
what's in the ground, then you are. We got, 8 inches down.
So let's come to order. I think we've got a quorum. We're expecting Representative Dunnigan at any moment. We'll invite him to sit there at the head of the table. Kelly, any further indication of the subject he wants to discuss?
No, I didn't ask him. He just asked to come, and he said to support her. I said, yeah. And he didn't volunteer, so.
So Guarantee Association is certainly likely, but I don't know if anyone else is aware of anything that.
Yeah, I know he's been meeting with the hospitals.
All right, Steve, let's start going through the legislative agenda until we are joined by Representative Dunnigan.
With HB 14, that's on the Senate board. There has been an amendment. I just want to make sure everybody saw that. I don't know if it came up that providing transportation services doesn't count as a kickback. And there was one other minor change that kind of softened the bill a little bit. Other than that, nothing to add there. 19 is done. 24 is done.
Without changes.
Yes.
24 just repeals the sunset.
39, there's an amendment. It's public now. I think Kelly, this was based on your conversations and Tina's recommendation to get the except as provided above kind of thing. That is, I think it's on the website though. HB 42 skip, 100 skip, 127 will skip, 139. This bill is on the board. It's like, I don't know if they, I actually talked to Steve Ellison in the elevator coming up. I sent a whole bunch of changes. I sent them to you, Kelly. I don't know if they went out to the whole group. But he said he's adopting those, and there should be an amendment that comes out, and he will circle it until we had a chance to see what the amendment.
See what amendments, okay. I can't remember whether I circulated those changes or not. Did you say? Okay, I'll make sure that we circulate them.
I can resend them to you.
No, I have them. I'm sure I have them.
So yeah, so that will be circled. He plans to move it, possibly this out. I don't know if are they doing hospitals this afternoon again, or this, so then it'll probably come out today. Let's see here, controlled substance database.
It might be worth mentioning on 139 that Steve and I met with Representative Dunnigan, and here again is where it helps to have a legislator that's a friend, and I'm sure he approached Stevenson on that and put a little pressure on him, and that's why he's so amenable to the changes. I don't think he just immediately said, we're gonna change, but.
It's still a mandate, we're not gonna love it.
Right.
Hopefully it's a little better.
Sorry, just when does that one become effective?
So I asked for a 2020 effective date.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's gonna be 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, for next plan year. That's already been, he already has made that change. And what I said, right, is that, I mean, this bill will go into, we're gonna file 2019 products in May. Your bill may not even be in effect when we file our 2019 products. And you should do 2020 because, for that reason alone, is that we're gonna have to build a benefit on a mandate that, isn't yet the law, just given the ACA timeline, which he understood, but he was like, well, would you rather have an immediate effective date so that with the 2019, and I was like, well, no.
Just to remind the members, he had an immediate effective date.
He did.
We're the ones that changed that. We said we wanted it 2022. He came back and said 2019, and Steve approached him and said we want it even longer. And as Steve's reported, he wasn't amenable.
There's also the Indian large group that was in the highlighted provisions, but nowhere in the bill. So, but again, I haven't seen the amendment, so I don't know how many of those changes he adopted. I told him that we're still not going to support the bill, but, and he's been surprisingly receptive, even with saying that we're not going to come out and speak in favor of it.
Just know that, as Steve pointed out last week, just to remind your member companies, if this bill passes, and we think it will, you only have to put it in one product line.
Yeah, under 618.5. That's right. HB 158 deals with the controlled substance database. I may have passed today, if I remember right. I think I passed the House this morning.
Let's look here, see if they've got it updated yet.
I'll just move on in the meantime. HB 163, this is the drug importation program. We have our transparency language that's been put in there. We're supporting the transparency piece. I know the pharma folks are really pushing hard. They feel like, I don't necessarily disagree, but that it's very different from the bill that Norm talked about for most of the summer by adding that, and that it's problematic. So there's another sub on this bill. I think that it could come up today in the afternoon. He will circle it if it comes up. But I know he's getting pressure from House leadership to take back out the transparency measures. That's my update there. Have you heard anything else?
I haven't. If he takes out the transparency, we're not.
Well,
I mean, are we neutral on the bill? If we take out
there's
the-
nothing to support if the transparency piece comes out. The importation stuff has been watered down enough that I don't think we need to oppose it. But I don't know if you guys have a different opinion of that.
It's pretty problematic
I know
whether this bill will pass.
I can't imagine this getting through the Senate this year. And with everything kind of going on with Thurston, I just don't think that's nothing.
So I defer to the will of the majority. Don't we have any strong feelings?
I know Melina doesn't like the bill, but we'll wait till the sun comes out and see whether or not what he's done on the transparency piece. HB 175, Kelly, have you heard anything else on this? this is the,
I listened to the whole hearing on this, which was kind of interesting. The governor is against, the governor doesn't want to be a part of this oversight committee. This is being driven by,
He's let it be known.
Yeah. yeah, he doesn't like it at all. He just thinks it's legislative overreach. And it was interesting, the committee, you know, when you're in the legislative process and you're a member of the body, and especially a majority member of the body, they don't like to slap you too hard. And so they just held this vote, but he didn't have the votes to get that out of committee that day. Now, the only problem is they didn't table it. Table requires 2/3 vote to bring it up again. Without it being tabled, if he can get the chairman to docket this bill again, it may come up. And what they usually do is wait till towards the end of the session, get it out of the committee, and then send it over to the Senate and see if they can move it. But again, there's a lot of opposition on this. Almost all the boards, school boards, boards of education, cities, towns, counties, all of them were there. All of them spoke against this bill. Would it have an impact upon us? It could. It could have an impact on us. It would be small, but it could have an impact. Somebody could bring up to the oversight committee that we overreached, and they could have an investigation or a discussion on it.
well, any department bulletin would be
Right.
subject to review and reverse law.
Exactly.
So
So,
maybe, I would say right now, I would probably think it's a bad thing, but
Yeah.
in the future, maybe not.
but right now, we'll monitor this bill carefully. I'm watching it almost every night. Well, I am watching it every night. I'm pulling it out and making sure that it hasn't been redocketed to be heard. So we'll watch this bill. There's lots of opposition, and I do believe the bill, I'm pretty sure the bill won't pass, but it would be a bad, I think it would be a bad precedent to set, but that's all I have to say on it.
Especially when you got a legislative auditor and administrative rules committee already. I think.
Yeah, pretty active.
All over.
Yeah.
Well, John Dougal was in the room, and then your legislative auditors were in the room for it. And they're opposed to the legislation, of course, because they feel like it's just overkill. In fact, the best statement was made by one of the representatives on it and said, what is it that this bill is trying to solve that we currently don't have? If we've got all these organizations, all these agencies out there that have oversight responsibility, what do we have to do to fix those if they're failing? The sponsor didn't have a response to it. So that's really why I think after he didn't have a response, they just gently said, we're going to the next item on the agenda.
They had a closed door caucus on this bill during lunch before the hearing for the purpose of getting everybody on board. But they still had 6 votes in the committee an hour later against it. Almost 7 dogs. It was back and forth. So, but there is either amendment, a protected amendment, or a protected substitute circulating. I'm kind of expecting to be back in committee next week. Yeah.
What caused this bill? This is just a match between the legislature and the governor, really. I mean,
Was there an issue or something that came up that, you know?
I don't know, do you know this?
No, I think.
Was this related to that Utah League of Cities and Towns that had that
No,
letter?
not directly.
So do you think there's support in the Senate for this?
No.
Yeah, that was kind of my take. I think there's a little more support in the House on it than the Senate, but that committee was
Opening
interesting.
remarks. Speaker wants it, so.
Yeah. Well, then it'll probably get out of the House.
Yeah.
The Speaker wants it, so. We'll monitor that bill and watch that bill closely because it has impact if it were to pass.
HB 195, medical cannabis policy. This is passed out of committee, it's on the board. This is the one, if you're terminally ill, you can that's marijuana. Still nothing that says we have to pay for it. HB 201, this lets PAs work under podiatrists. I've talked to Candace Daly, the lobbyist for the podiatrist, and she doesn't expect this to go into our session. HB 204, healthcare debt collection. I know we were told to look at this. I looked at it early in the session and we didn't have any problems. Anybody else?
I listened to the debate on it. I don't think it really has, it really impacts us. I mean, basically, the amendment says it. The section in red there, you can read it.
It's for providers, right?
Yes.
Or an agency that
Yeah,
they
right.
may use.
They farm it out.
Right.
for collection.
So I don't see how it impacts us much, but we just, again, because it deals in healthcare, we wanted to alert the members to it.
HB 258, women's cancer screening. This bill's passed out of committee.
With no opposition. But this is, let me just say on this, Steve, that I talked to Representative Kennedy the other day, and his concern on this bill is 50% of women, when they have a breast screening, have dense breast tissue. He's saying that's the norm. That is the norm. And what this bill requires is that they're notified of that they have dense tissue, and if they want another screening, they can get another screening. And so he's saying there's two things there. One is that's going to require more work on our part, and two, it can increase costs.
Mhm.
And he's got some concerns about it. Now, I don't know, I'm not a physician, but if that's the norm, that could be a real problem, right?
So any indication that any of us through prior auth are impeding someone's access to this care? Was there any testimony to that effect?
No, the only testimony that was given on it, and I haven't listened to the testimony, I'm just going on what Representative Kennedy told me it was heard yesterday on it. He just basically said that there's a lot of heart-rending stories that were offered by women that had problem in this area, and that the committee voted for it.
There was an article in the D News 2 days ago about it, about a woman that just followed her gut and finally forced her doctor to let her have another test, and she did have breast cancer, so.
Our medical folks don't have a problem with it, but it's just a notification. There's no extra band-aids or anything.
Yeah, it is a notification. But what happens if they get notified?
Probably increases utilization a little bit, but if they're better health outcomes,
You don't need to treat it.
I don't think it's what we should pose.
Okay,
I would make the motion that we have, do we have a no position on?
yes.
Yeah.
Any opposition to that?
You guys, sorry, this is Erin at United. I'm trying to pull up the bill. Question is it really prescriptive on what we have to say? Because I've seen in other states where it actually writes out the verbiage, which some of it could be scary to patients.
As you have to provide a bit,
The provider has to provide it,
Yeah.
it's not the carrier.
right?
But
Got it.
Say that. It's, I think it's right at the end of the bill, isn't it?
Yeah, but here, we can bring it up right here.
Yeah,
Okay.
the last paragraph. Right there.
Yeah. It's line 71 through 83, Aaron.
Okay.
And
Uh-huh.
it has the specific language that has to be used, line 74 through 83. But as Steve's already mentioned, it comes from the
From
provider.
the provider, not the carrier. Got it.
Representative. We're in the one closest to North Temple, and, yeah, we have-
Any other discussion, or we're okay going neutral on this? HB 260 is still in rules. HB 308, did we talk about this one last time?
I don't think it was on there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think this is new. It's a $600,000 pilot program, between the Department of Health and local school districts to provide, mental health services via telehealth. There's no mandate. Ivory's obviously dabbled in that area in recent years, but I don't think there's anything for us to oppose that, with that being all it is. I would move that we be neutral on the bill.
Any discussion?
I didn't, does it have a fiscal note on
It
it?
does, yeah, so $600,000.
Oh, you
Not
said that.
funded,
Okay.
yeah. There was another, so last summer, I participated in a telehealth work group where it was originally about mandate for parity and reimbursement. And then we kind of moved and say, hey, why don't you have the state, the state wants to pay for that, that's great. And so he passed with Becky Edwards a similar bill on, I think, like rural mental health services last year, and then this is one, and then he's got a third one that he wants to do next year. And that they're all 2-year pilot programs and the one last year did get funded. I don't know if we should position or not last year, but, that's the bill.
I mean, I'll second the neutral position.
All right.
I'm assuming it's unanimous unless someone speaks up to the contrary.
Okay. HB 315. I think this was new as well, isn't it? Did we talk about this last Friday?
This is new.
Okay. This is it removes from it used to be section 617 of the code, it's been renumbered. The exemption, in the PPO statute that says we don't have to contract with athletic trainers, even if, those services are within their scope of practice. I have met with Green, he's not interested in making any changes to the bill. We were trying to get him to go, because to me, this one's crazy with him being a freedom, libertarian type person, to make us have to contract with a certain class of providers. But we're working to get this one moved to business labor and hopefully voted down as a mandate. I would move that we oppose the bill.
I'll second.
Discussion? See unanimous consent.
All right. Massage Therapy Practice Act, this is as an example, I don't even know what Bowen work is, but that if you do that, you don't have to become licensed as a massage therapist. I don't see any reason for us to take a position. But I guess I would entertain a motion if somebody wants to.
Yeah, it looked like it was just a certain type of, like,
Like
and below
reflexology or
the
something.
Yeah,
elbow and the knee and
Mhm.
above the shoulders or something.
this is important stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't require payment
No,
from
No.
insurance.
We already
As long
have,
as
I
it's all
think, that massage therapists can't, in their practice act, I think we have that they can't get reimbursed, or that we
don't have to.
reimburse them, yeah. HB 335, this is a Medicaid waiver that expands the PCN. It's funded through, a hospital assessment and some alcohol and tobacco taxes.
It's 325, isn't it,
Is it the
Yeah.
number?
yeah.
Should say 325.
Doug, as the expert in Medicaid, do you have anything to add to this one?
Other than the fact that I was multitasking, which one?
This is a PCN bill,
This is
it's
335.
a PCN enhancement.
He was billed 325.
You got a new one?
Thought I pulled it from that pack.
Oh, right here. Yeah. Well, it should be 325, that's the number. There's the second.
I haven't had a chance to review it. Gina, have you looked
I
at it?
must admit, I haven't looked at it before either, and I have no idea what the department's position is or whether this ties in to any of the Medicaid expansion.
I know this popped up during the interim, at least, like one healthcare task force, but I don't know how the funding mechanism works or whether it impacts that.
So the primary care network theoretically expired last year, but they're proposing an extension of it. So my guess would be that this ties in with some of the other expansion efforts, but I don't know offhand.
Okay.
So let's
We'll
pass
hold
it
the bill.
for today.
SB 48, Doug let us know unofficially it was dead, and now it's officially dead. This is the 5-year waiting period. SB 53, Workers' Compensation Coordination of Benefits. Dunnigan is the sponsor of this, so I would say we could wait until he gets here. But I've been told that this bill will stay circled and guide us on that. So,
The sunset
it
one,
will sunset.
yeah.
The WCF told her that they don't need the bill, and that it can sunset.
They don't want to get flipped on.
They don't want, well, and I don't think they want to notify us. They don't want the Labor Department to be notifying us.
Yeah.
So, she's just wanted something.
Yeah.
But let's make sure, when Dunnigan comes up, if, depending on how much time he has, we'll add that to the list of bills. SB 64, this is workers' comp healthcare amendment. Current law requires an out-of-network workers' comp carrier, or a carrier that's with an out-of-network facility to reimburse 85% of bill charges. There's a sub out on this that drops it down to 77% of bill charges. And also, has a study component where, I don't know if it's like if it's the workers' comp board that is gonna look at,
The Labor Commission.
Labor Commission. is
Yeah, they're
gonna-
gonna evaluate costs and determine if there's other things that can do that down the road.
Yeah, it's got a 5-year agreement.
I think something like that.
Yeah. So that's, it's
Pretty much,
vague.
it's pretty much limited to work comps.
Yeah,
There's still some consternation because, 77% is still charged,
An arbitrary number.
can be whatever,
Yeah.
right? And that's part of what the study is trying to get at, right? Whether or not that's happening.
Get another chair
hello,
for you.
Carolyn, I can move.
Right here.
Here. I'll move up.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Welcome. Such a busy, quiet time of year, nice of you to get off the hill.
There's pretty much nothing going on.
The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So I'm working on updating some legislation that peripherally involves you. And it requires contractors that are bidding on larger state projects like UDOT or buildings, UTA of $2 million or more for the employer to offer health insurance to their employees and pay 50% across all tiers. So we've had that for several years now. And we determined, the idea behind that is we had and we still have some employers that come in, they'll bid on these large state projects that are of course funded with taxpayer dollars, but they won't offer health insurance to their employees. And then some of their employees will qualify for CHIP, or some of their kids or Medicaid, so they're double dipping. They're getting taxpayer dollars to pay them for the work they're doing, and then they're putting some of their employees or their families on government-sponsored programs and trying to compete against the employers that do offer health insurance. So several years ago, we ran legislation that says on the larger projects, you've got to offer health insurance and you have to pay at least 50% across all tiers. We've had that for several years. We found out that with DSCM, the agency that is in charge of building state buildings, that they do a construction management contract. And so they're not meeting the threshold because the initial contract might be for, oh, thank you, it might be for $200,000 or $300,000 and to do some design work. And so it doesn't meet the threshold. The contractors don't have to have insurance. And then they'll come on with the main contract that might be $2, $3, $5, $10 million. And the way that's done, they're not required to meet the law. So I met with the Associated General Contractors during the interim and DSCM. Well, and then somebody requested an audit on DSCM to see if they were complying with it, if they weren't. And so the reason I'm here is when we worked on this several years ago, there's a requirement that the business owner or their insurance broker get an actuarial or an underwriting certification or acknowledgement that the plan that they're offering meets, thank you, Kelly, meets the required coverage that's established in the law. And the law is based on the same as the CHIP benchmark, which is the most commonly sold small employer benefit package in Utah. And Select Health happens to be the largest, so every year, Milliman goes into Select Health and determines what their most common benefit package is. And for example, it's like $1,000 deductible with co-pays, blah, blah, blah. So that's what they have to meet, that's the benchmark. You folks and Select agreed several years ago that you would have your underwriter, because initially the bill said it had to be an actuarial certification, which can be some money. So then we changed it to an underwriter, and you folks agreed then that your underwriter would be willing to sign off on it. UDOT prepared a pretty simple sheet. I mean, actually, it's easy for an underwriter, in my opinion, to say, here's the benefits for the benchmark, here's the employer's benefits, they're equivalent. It doesn't have to be identical. They just have to say, yeah, this at least meets this minimum criteria. So we've been doing that for years. UDOT has not had any problems. DSCM has had problems from the get-go. They don't like to do it. They don't understand it. They don't understand insurance. They don't want to do it. But now with the audit, they hate our legislative auditors even worse than they hate doing this. So they've come up with their proposal. This is UDOT, right? Okay. So DCFM has come up with theirs, and they told me that the health carriers are not willing to do this. I was just wondering if I could give you some copies, and you go back to your carriers and see if your underwriters will do this. I mean, I'll stop there. You have questions? Do you understand? Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I do, and I do them all the time. So are you saying that, how is this different from what is already going on already?
Russell, tell the representative who you are and what company you represent, please.
HSA Health Insurance Company.
Yeah, okay. So what's changed? Okay, so there's two things that are going to change. I'm going to try to change the state law to pull in these contract management bids. But the main thing that's changing is DSCM is actually going to try to make their contractors comply with the law. Mm-hmm. And to their credit to them, their assistant AG has come up with this, but I said, why don't you just clone UDOT? But they had to come up with their own. And so they're saying that they're getting rejected. And I think we have more of these. So, let me introduce my intern, Caroline.
Hi.
Hi.
From Las Vegas via BYU. And I think the sticking point on this is because on the UDOT, and I'll send this around, there's a UDOT one. I brought several for those of you who have any interest in looking at it. on the UDOT one, the reason I'm bringing this to you is because I met with them like yesterday or 2 days ago, and they basically just want to eliminate this and try to require on the good graces of people to comply, which we already did an audit.
UDOT wants that?
No, DSCM.
DSCM, okay.
And there's go ahead and eat, Caroline, don't wait for me. No, go ahead. And, you really have to eat on too. So, actually what their assistant AG says, we don't need to worry about this equivalency statement. We'll just wait for private attorneys to find out that there is a private right of action, which there is in the original law, that says if an employer does not offer this and somebody gets sick, and then the employer is responsible for covering their medical bills to the extent that this coverage would have covered it. And so what he's proposing to put in this year is that includes attorney fees. And he said that he's an attorney, and he said that most attorneys are such bottom feeders that if they see that there's money in their form, they'll start enforcing it by filing lawsuits. But they agree that could take 2 or 3 years for it to get out and be a revenue source for them. And so I don't want to wait for that. I think what the rub is, and I only have one copy of this, but it says, so the UDOT form.
Rick will be able to make some copies.
Absolutely. I can get some copies of that.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
That one page. The UDOT form on their statement of actuarial equivalency says, the actuary underwriter has compared the benefit plan for ABC Construction to the minimum qualified health insurance coverage requirements listed in UCA, blah, blah, blah. And that's posted on the website now. It's easy to find. And the coverage has been determined to be actuarial equivalent to the requirements. That's all, okay? And we've been doing it. You've been doing it, right? Mm-hmm. So now what DSCM is doing is they have put in that, plus they said, and you're certified that the employer is contributing at least 50% of the premium. And I'm assuming the sticking point is the underwriters don't want to certify that the employer is paying 50% of the premium. That's the requirement. And I think it should state that on the form, that maybe the employer needs to sign off on that. I'm asking for your input to see if you think that's a sticking point and why, because they're telling me the health plans are not doing this theirs, that they're doing UDOT, but not theirs. And I'm wondering if that your reluctance to stipulate or to sign off that the employer is paying 50%.
So we really don't know unless we audit, right? I mean, we'd have to actually go into their payroll, and we have no interest in going into our employers and not taking the word for what they've said. And then I would offer a couple other suggestions as well. The current law, the way it's written, is you actually have 3 different tests that you can qualify under, and I would suggest that we simplify that to 1, actuarial equivalent, and not include in the other issues, the other ways that they have it in there. And then I'd also suggest that instead of using our own actuarial equivalencies, that we use a national standard. And I don't care if it's like the federal actuarial value calculator, because I could say that this plan fits, and then they go to the next carrier, it's the same exact plan, and their actuarial, because of the benefit relativities, would say it doesn't fit. And so we really don't have a constant standard between all the carriers. And I know how most of these guys underwrite, and so I have an idea of what the relativities are, and they're very different.
I'm not following the second part. What you want to,
So
what actuarial equivalency?
CMS puts out an actuarial value calculator every year as part of the ACA. And so it's their actuaries to say this is what one plan benefit relativity is equivalent to another plan benefit relativity is, right?
Okay.
If I have minimum out of
the gold, silver, whatever, or just equivalency period?
Well, it's used to calculate that, just so you know which category it fits in, right? But my actuarial data will be different than everybody else's, and so I may say that this plan design compared to that one, I could say they're the same or 10% different, and then regions could look at it and say, no, they're, it's 10% the other direction even. And so there's really not a true equivalency built in.
That would complicate it. So the 3 options, so the idea was to have 1, which is what you.
And I would suggest 1 because.
But then somebody came back and said, Because the requirement is that you take the benchmark and you pay at least 50% of that. So you have a minimum required benefit, minimum required contribution. Then somebody came back and said, well, we don't pay 50%, we pay 90%. But why should we have to pay 90% of this plan, you know, if we pay more? So we said, okay, actuarial equivalent. Mark Brown helped us draft this, if any of you know Mark. So it has to be, so if you pay more in the cost, then the benefit could be somewhat reduced. And then somebody came back and said, what about high deductible health plans and health savings accounts? Should they be able to meet this threshold? The answer is yes. If there's a contribution to the HSA, then that can meet this too.
So,
You sell HSAs, right?
yes,
Do you want us to eliminate that option?
I just don't think it matters. Just because I think if you do actuarial equivalent, multiplied by contribution level, you know, and just compare that to the benchmark, you can do that. In other words, I can compare my HSA plans against a copay plan with my actuarial data anyway. So I just don't know that you need all the different.
Well, that would require a higher premium contribution for the HSAs, right?
Right, but you could also, there's a way to count HSA contributions as well, though.
And that's what's in the
Because
law.
Right,
It counts HSA
right.
contributions.
And I'm just saying you could, so when I have somebody that, and I just did them yesterday, I will actually look at every test and make sure that as long as they meet one, then they meet it, right? And so I'm playing, you know, whichever way it makes it that they meet, then I can certify that it meets it, right?
They only have to meet one of them.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I can do it. I just pick the one that works. And so why do you have three standards if they're very different? And then also, you still have, you know, that actuarial equivalency between the different carriers.
Okay, between the carriers, I understand that,
Mhm.
and we may want to address that. Won't be this session. I've not heard that before. As far as the three different options, so there's a benchmark that we've chosen that is one of the ones offered by the federal government that is used for CHIP. And so we've just chosen that benchmark.
Mhm.
And so we're just trying to give more options. Either you pay more in premium and you can have a lesser benefit, or you meet the minimum. But I'm not following how you would only have one, this benefit level and 50% of premium.
So my point is that CHIP, if you look at the CHIP plan, you have an actuarial value, right? And if you look at the other option that says that you can use the minimum IRS allowed HSA compatible plan, which is $13.50, and you can say, okay, what's the actual value there? And that's going to be different than your CHIP plan. And so now you're just playing with different benchmarks. I'd prefer it to be one benchmark to be fairer across. I mean, if the plan is to try to make the contractors do a fair benefit out there, when you have multiple plan design or multiple benchmarks that you can bounce it against, then it doesn't end up the same.
So when we worked on this initially, we had an actuary, Mark Brown, who said, try to make these reasonably equivalent. That's what we came up with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to look at that, but not for this session.
Okay.
For this session, I've got to try to get something that will work for DSCM. And I'm interested to see if you folks can continue to sign off on these things and what the problem with the language is. We can adjust it.
So given this document, could we sign it? Is
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and if not, why?
That's right.
Carolyn, could you send this to us? Okay. Or to Kelly, or so you can get it to the group, or to both the UDOT.
I sent him to Kelly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
he
a
just took it.
photograph of it.
Yeah, photograph
Not
of
a
it.
PDF of it.
If you've got a PDF, that would really help, Carol.
Okay, we can do that
Okay. How soon do we need to get back to you?
Monday.
My only one issue would just be, I don't know for sure that how much they're paying towards their premium. I have to go by what they report. Otherwise I have to audit them, right? And I'm not going to do that.
So my point on that is UDOT doesn't have that in there.
Yeah, we sign off on the UDOT ones by saying that, you know, they reported that basically to us. And from what they've told us, then it meets the equivalent, and we're okay with it.
Yeah, this is Erin at United on the phone, so I don't have the document in front of me, obviously, but I think a thought here is if the 58% is important, is there a possibility to do a separate attestation from the employers instead of from the health plan? That might be an option.
And that's what I'm thinking, is to split out the premium level and have an attestation from the employer that they'll contribute at least 50%. And I think the problem is, but I wanted to see if you had any input, is that it appears that they're asking the underwriter to attest that the employer's paying 50%. And I'm just thinking maybe that's where the underwriter's uncomfortable.
And I would say we just, as it is now, we're certifying that by what they've told us on what they're paying, what they're contributing and the plan design, then yes, it meets or it doesn't.
Okay.
And we're fine doing that.
So if I get something more in line with what UDOT's doing, or break out the premium contribution as the employer attestation, can your folks continue to do these?
I would just put the UDOT language in the statute and just say DSCM, this has worked for them, and just, this is the standard.
I know. So we met probably 3 months ago with DSCM and got the information from UDOT. But DSCM's got this assistant AG that, you know, I'm an attorney, I'll just draft it the way it needs to be drafted.
Attorneys are the worst.
We all agree that our attorneys.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Except for ours, yeah.
We love our attorneys, but we hate attorneys in general.
You're not resistant to helping sign off on these, are you? Your companies, your underwriter?
I haven't heard anything, but if we're signing off on the UDOT side, I don't know why this one would be different, other than the thing that you've identified.
I do like what they've done, and they wanted to have this whole long thing, and I like that applies to contracts of $1 million or more for subs or $2 million or more for the prime. I said that's fine, and so I said just include it on the form. So they got this is an attorney, right? They got so much stuff down there that nobody will read it. Mm-hmm. My intent was it applies to contracts of $2 million or greater. When they're good, you know, big bold letters, blah blah. Now they've got all these. That's fine, whatever. So that was that. Kelly will email this to you.
Great.
If you have any suggestions, I think United's suggestion is a good one to just break it out and not ask the underwriter to attest, just have the employer attest that they're contributing at least 50%. So I'll do that. I just wanted to, because they said, oh, the health plans are just, they just don't like this. They're not cooperating anymore. So I just wanted to come and visit with you.
So what we've got here, Representative, could you give us kind of where we are with the Guarantee Association?
Yes. So we had a meeting yesterday with the insurance department and our drafting attorney, and we went through the bill. He's got a draft. And for those of you that are with our working group meeting, whenever that was, a week or so ago, we've taken much of the input and tried to put it in there and tried to mesh it with the NEIC model as far as the Model Act. As far as the big policy issues, I mean, the LTC is proposes to go to 75% responsibility to life and annuity, 25% to the health plans, and then there'll be a 5-year period where the HMOs will be run in the Guarantee Association, and there'll be a 5-year period before they have responsibility for the LTC. So that's where we work, the working group. That's not changed. There's other things that we've updated and taken your comments and suggestions are. I did add a piece in there that, and this would apply probably only to the health plans, that if you don't pay a premium tax and you have an assessment for an insolvency, that you can take it credit against the state income or franchise tax. So we added that. And that's been sent to the doc techs for proofing, and I expect it will be numbered probably hopefully early next week.
So the only pushback I've heard from some of our members is the question of the 5-year moratorium for the HMOs taking on long-term care insolvencies versus the immediacy of taking on the loss of the insolvency of an HMO.
I've heard that before, that concern. And okay, I just want to say again, we get so hung up on the LTC. What's the goal here? The goal is to bring the HMOs into the Guarantee Association, so that people that have an HMO policy will be protected and they don't have to suffer through arches. Also, we've got other major players in the health arena, right? If a PPO goes insolvent, which could happen. So let's keep in mind that the HMOs have full responsibility if another HMO or if a PPO goes under. And how much do they contribute towards LTC if we don't do anything? Zero. Not a thing. After 5 years, you know, they'll be part of the 25% for the health plans. So I understand that. And it's only an issue because we have a major LTC insolvency, you know, otherwise we'd probably be worried about that. Let's don't lose sight of the fact that when they come in immediately, they're going to be responsible for other HMOs insolvencies, which they are now, but as well as PPO and other health plans insolvencies. And after 5 years that they're in, we're done.
This is a new, do you expect next year to have any kind of follow-up discussion on varying reserve requirements and things between HMO and PPO carriers, or?
So that's something we can work on in the interim. I mean, early on, even a few years ago, we started working on that. And they're two different animals, you know, on their licensing requirements, on the reserves. And I think ideally, it'd be nice to have them all under one standard, so everybody have the same requirements. But we decided to work on more of the benefit structure first and the way it works for the consumer, and then work on the other stuff, because that's even worse.
Okay.
You're still at the 75-25?
Yes.
And we heard the commissioner at the last Guarantee Association meeting advocating maybe a staircase approach to get to 50-50.
Yeah.
You said you were entertaining some of the suggestions. Is that one you're entertaining, or?
Well, you know, I don't know.
Okay.
Look, I don't see us getting to 50-50. Okay, I have been to a number of national meetings with the NAIC, including the NAIC president, as well as NCOIL, which is the National Conference of Insurance Legislators, and they all talk about this issue. And as I've told some of you, when I talked to the president of NAIC, I said, what do you do if you have an integrated hospital and health plan, you know, and they're a pretty big piece of the market? And he said, you're talking Kaiser. And I said, well, not exactly. But he said, we understand that things are going to be different in states that have a Kaiser, okay, because it's different. I said, we have a Kaiser in Utah. And on the ACLI, American Council of Life Insurance, they were all that, all right? I don't see us, you know, it's just me, I don't see us doing 50-50. Okay. And I don't know why you carriers would want 50-50. I don't get that. You agree on that one.
I was just checking out where the commissioner had made that statement. You said you'd adopted some of the suggestions. I just wanted to see if that was one of the suggestions. For us, the 75-25.
I don't know what happened to that. I didn't make the list.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have tried to listen to comments. We did put an income tax offset.
Thank you.
We'll see if that flies. Okay.
Yeah.
I happen to think that's a pretty big one,
I agree.
and I think it's a fair one. And that's in there, but we still have to vet that. I vetted it just on a discussion with the tax commissioner, but we're going to vet it more officially with the tax commission. The other thing I looked at is, because you guys do some life, right?
We write like,
Yeah.
you do as well.
And so the life has a responsibility, and right now, as you all know, for the long-term care, health carriers own that at 5%. But most of the health carriers did very little or none LTC. And there's a lot of life carriers that didn't do any LTC either. It's like, nobody wants to own the LTC, you know? Even the LTCs, they don't want to own LTC. So you got to spread around. But one thing I looked at is for the domestic or the domiciled life carriers in Utah, if we do a 75-25 split, how much are they impacted dollar-wise? And it's very minimal, very minimal. If you were at our last meeting, threw the graph up, it's just, that's not talking major dollars. Some of the national life, like, you know, New York Life and others, I've heard from them, they're going to be more interested because they have a bigger book of business, but they're not Utah companies. And I care more about Utah companies than I got to do about non-domiciled companies. And so I looked from the get-go how it's going to impact Utah companies, and because the national guys, I told some of you, I sold some LTC. It was General American, it was John Hancock, you know, those are the ones that were out there. And so anyway, it's a long answer, but any other things you want to talk about?
Just one thing else I'd like to explore with you. Yesterday I was meeting with the representative, and he indicated to us, he said, why haven't insurers assessed the state for the costs of the unfunded mandates that have passed since the essential service package? And I thought that was an intriguing question. His thoughts were that doing so would create a chilling effect, and I think it would. I want to get your assessment. What do you think would be the fallout of that, if anything? I mean, we know that autism didn't cost 1%, but the commissioner has already said that at least one company in this marketplace, their costs were 0.5%. And so we couldn't do this as an individual. None of us could step out in front of this train as individual insurance companies. But if collectively we send in a bill, all of us collectively, and said this is a cost, I think the representative that I spoke with is correct. It would create a chilling effect. It would be, right now they're saying, well, we pass these mandates and nothing happens. We're free and scot-free. So I want your assessment on what you think about that strategy.
So initially, we thought that with the federal law, that the state had to bring precedent in mandates, it would slow down these mandates. I actually think it might be a good idea to do that. There's no consequence. Our fiscal analysts are just not including it, you know. And it'd be good to send them a number, I think. I think there'll be some pushback. I think we also have a pretty solid thing. The responses we've been telling us for years, it's in federal law. What did you expect?
I've told the fiscal analysts at minimum, every fiscal note that has a new mandate ought to alert the legislature of the potential that there might be costs associated with the passage of it. They said they'd take it under consideration. But at minimum, that's what they ought to be doing. Because in fact, Elison's a perfect example. When I met with Representative Elison and I pointed out that his legislation was only going to affect 30% of the marketplace, his immediate response was, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. You mean I'm only going to affect 30% of the marketplace? Yeah. So there's a lot of legislators that I just don't think that this is even on their radar. Now, Health and Human Service, yes. And I think the Business and Labor, yes. But the other legislators aren't in tune with it.
Well, one thing to do is to try to pass a bill that adds another notation to our fiscal note, you know, because we have all these different notations to say, you know, what's the mandate impact. The other, but you gotta change the statute to do that.
Yeah.
The other way is to just sit in the bill, and maybe you gotta start doing that. Because we're not getting any traction with just saying, you guys don't get it. You know, you're supposed to be included in this. If I remember correctly, you guys could help me out. The state's responsible for paying the increased cost of the mandate on the marketplace. Is that right?
The federal, yeah.
Not the whole, I don't know if it's.
I don't think it's the whole marketplace. I think it's just the federal. But I'll have to go back. That memo for all our members will, and I'd appreciate you attorneys looking that over. That memo is on the website in the same places in the same places where we put our tracking list. So if you can pull that up and look that over. But I think the representative's correct. I think it's only the federal portion. But still, that'd be fairly significant.
Might even help Select Health pay their guarantee assessment, their ARCHES assessment.
Yeah, might even help.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think is even win, lose, or draw on this, regardless of the shakeout on it and the debate and the discussion, what it would do, in my judgment, is have a chilling effect going forward.
Yeah.
I mean, legislators would be going, hey, wait, we might have dodged this bullet, but this is what the law is. I don't see how they get out of it, but again, you know, I don't think the state's gonna go happily and saying, yeah, we're happy to pay those.
I think you ought to do that. It had a chilling effect at first, and I'm like, oh, it's not happening. So it should, every mandate should have that on there. So if you can figure out what the cost is for the mandates, we thought that would kill all the mandates. It hasn't. Because it's not, there's no charge for it.
The big problem you have is just like, and Representative Ellison is a really nice gentleman, but his point to the carriers, and he's pretty blunt about it. He just basically said, if you stand in front of this bill, won't support this bill, you're in support of suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then you get all these people that come up. I mean, they come up and they say, you know, this piece of legislation, my child would still be here if this had been in effect. And legislators, you can just see, in that room, we could just see, I mean, we thought we had the votes, you just saw the shift. I mean, it was pretty transparent, immediately, and so those are the challenges. But I think the one thing is that they have to put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah. So we have a bill that's gonna require physicians to take 2 hours of suicide training every 2 years as part of their 40-hour CE credit. And that came to business labor yesterday, and it failed by 1 vote. But it was Representative Boston, it's the same thing. Suicide is such a big issue, that's great. And, but part of that mandate is it went to Health and Human Service Committee. Not the business labor gets it right all the time, but that was an insurance mandate. It should have come under business labor. Yeah. And may have gotten a different outcome. Even with all the stuff you said. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Thank you very much, Representative. Keep fighting the good fight. We appreciate all of the issues that we align on,
Well,
And even the ones we don't.
Thank you very much for lunch. Any of the issues, like, if we can take this requirement to have coverage in state contracts and on the interim, I'm glad to sit down with you and you help me figure out a way to simplify it.
Sure.
You know, I'm glad to do that. I'm looking to simplify, you know, not go the other direction as much as we can. But, okay, we're gonna head back up to the asylum, so.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Is your Kevin Garbage here?
We'll take care of
Leave
it.
it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Caroline.
Hey, I'm just gonna step out and make sure he gets validated.
follow up. All right. Don't have many more on the list. We were talking about SB 64, workers' comp, healthcare amendments. Brian is the expert on that one.
Which one?
This is the 77% of bill
Oh,
charges. Anything else we need to add to that? I know that Kelly, we had talked about when this gets over to the House, just make sure he testifies that bill charges is not a benchmark that would be acceptable for major medical. SB 68, that's, I don't know if that may have passed today. Just allows PAs and nurse practitioners to sign death certificates. SB 92, this is a result of a Supreme Court decision, and
It's cruising along.
it's not, there was a work group with the Labor Commission, and it's just restores basically a statute that was struck down by the Supreme Court in a different kind of way.
Yeah, basically allows the Labor Department and the court to work on the attorney fee rule together, because the Supreme Court ruled they have purview over attorney fees, not the Labor Department. Judiciary function.
That's right.
It's been a pretty consistent argument from our Supreme Court over the last 5 or 6 years.
SB 135 is our last bill. Discretionary clauses, we voted to oppose this last week. This bill flew out of committee on Wednesday. I am hearing that he is planning on taking us out in the House.
So I talked to him, and he said it's not really his bill, it's actually
Well, this is the Brian King Job Simplification Act
Right.
of 2018.
It's
Yeah.
Brian King's
Yeah.
bill. And what he said is that Brian King has said there's never been any problem with healthcare companies, and he would be happy to entertain a carve out of the House. So we need to get to Brian King and ask him to run that amendment. I have not done that yet.
King will be the House sponsor. He is the House. Yeah, I don't know, but,
It's gonna fly out of the Senate, he's got.
So you want me to approach Brian on that? I've got a really good,
Sure.
outside of, but I got a great relationship with him.
He tolerates me, so he's not.
Yeah, he's been very friendly over the years.
I've sat down with him. I think now, right, he's not in a dealing mood right now because he knows it's gonna get out of the Senate, but, I think once it passes, he'll start talking. I think in the House, if it gets sent to business labor and we continue to work the process,
Yeah.
I do think.
The big problem we have with this legislation is, the commissioner supports it.
Yep.
So he came and testified, and the only person testified against this legislation in committee was your executive director.
He did very good, very well.
Well, we did what we need to do on it. The thing, I've already been talking to House members on the Business Labor Committee right now. We've asked Representative Dunnigan to see if he can get it sent there. He said this is where it belongs. I've already begun to talk to them about the fact that really, whether you like discretionary clauses or you hate discretionary clauses, the big challenge you have is it only affects a third of the marketplace. So small employers will be prohibited from having discretionary clauses. And large employers will continue to have discretionary clauses. And yet they're expected to compete side by side. And how's that creating a level playing field?
So I brought this up with Candace Daly, and it would be great if the two of you could talk to her as well to get the NFIB to come out in opposition to the bill. And then I'm working with Select Health to see if the chamber will put this on their list of bills that they oppose to make this less of an insurance issue and more of a business issue.
Okay. And Steve's done some great work on this. He put, from the national, what was it, Labor Business Review, a great article on it. In fact, I'll take that and I'll circulate it to all of you. And it's kind of interesting why they said that this is a high standard, the discretionary clause is a high standard. It's not an insurmountable standard. And so it's not like, it's a slam dunk for us as insurance companies with discretionary clauses. It's just that when we all know how voluminous policies are. And if you don't dot every I and cross every T, you have some plaintiff attorney coming in and making an argument that this is what it was, this is what they intended when it wasn't. And the law is clear on this, based on the review, it's clear on this that you have to demonstrate that that's not the intent. That wasn't the intent. You have to have evidence to do it.
Do you think that someone, I don't necessarily think this is the appropriate tech now, but like if we were to add to the insurance code that the insurance department cannot use its discretion when it adopts a new rule or regulation or bulletin, you see how they would think about, what they would think about that? I mean, right? I mean, every rule they make is the exercise of.
That's a great
Well, enforcing them.
Yeah.
There's so much discretionary going on, especially now, but.
I mean, I don't, so, I mean, that could hurt us, but,
Clear on that one. I think a lot of nods, I think a lot of people are doing the same thing here.
On these discretionary clauses, so that the 20 states have this, a similar law.
No, let's be clear about that. 20 states have either a policy that governs this or a statute. It's about half and half. Utah has a statute, a rule that governs this. And Wyoming has the same rule, verbatim the same rule. So there's lots of states that say it's discouraged unless you have bold language in your policy saying that you have discretion.
What I've asked Sunshine to see if there's any data out there on when these rules or laws have passed in the states, what impact it had on the health market, what impact it had on premium. Lincoln said if we could demonstrate somehow create more cost or create more problems, we can document it by data to it, he may be willing to.
He made the same comment in committee.
But I haven't seen any data, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, sorry, Brian, I asked and we don't have anything more than
So let me-
stuff that I gave you.
Did he meet with you on this, Steve? And who else did he meet with? Because he said he met with a number of insurance carriers and put that challenge down and what it responded to. Okay.
So I met with him, and then last week, I met with him once this week, and I don't know if I'm talking to Fillmore or King, because I think King's hand is behind Fillmore when he talks, and then when King talks, it's actually him. So, and then he's talked to Select. I know Select really hates the bill, so. Although they didn't testify, I know they hate the bill.
Yeah. Good.
So I don't know what other carriers, if any, he's talked to. I should add, Ted Lewis, trying to get him engaged more on the ACLI.
And I can reach out, put that down, Michael, is on my to-do list to reach out to talk to Ted too. I'll talk to both King and Lewis on this too. Who else? Who else you want me to?
I mean, I think the providers are not going to be with us. I mean, the docs, I think, right?
UMA testified in favor of the bill.
They want whatever treatment they recommend to be covered. So I would just say, I mean, the Business Coalition, you may want to talk to, those
Dave Davis.
special people. Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk to Dave on it too.
Okay. That's it for bills.
What about bills we haven't seen yet?
So we're still waiting on the Vickers, the prior auth bill. He said
There
it
they are.
could any time on that one.
He said he would engage us.
Yeah.
To this draft and go get it out to us and let us,
And he confirmed that, his intern confirmed that with me.
I think he's interested in having a consensus bill, if
Yeah.
it's possible to get to one. I don't know.
Talking about Ohio, it took them 3 years or something to get to consensus, so.
I have an appointment next week with Green on the athletic trainer bill, so,
Oh, okay.
Or April.
yeah.
Yeah, good luck.
He said, well, you should get rid of this, and then next year I'm gonna gonna get rid of that section of the code. It's just like,
That what it
so
said?
you're gonna give the athletic trainers, you're gonna make us panel them for a year, and then you're gonna take on all the
That's a
providers.
dangerous, bold statement
No.
to make for somebody that has to run for reelection.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be making those kind of threats. Not an election.
I know that Dunnigan has been meeting with the hospitals on a potential balanced billing law. I think he is.
We should have asked him about that. We should have asked him about that.
You know, he won't tell you.
He wanted to get out of here.
He won't tell you anything anyway, we're already talking about it. I'm working on it.
Okay.
Time for you guys to come in that way.
Okay,
I think he's trying to negotiate that half first.
yeah, well, that's the hardest half to negotiate. That's who kept the bill from coming to fruition last year. Okay, so one of the things after the session, I just want to explore with the members, this concept of collectively, you know, stepping up and presenting, all our companies stepping up, looking at the unfunded mandates and presenting a bill to all of us, stepping forward and saying, here's the costs associated with these unfunded mandates. You've heard that Representative Dunnigan thinks that's a good idea. Representative Ward was the other representative. He's a physician, and he was going, well, why haven't you done this?
Some of them may not be, like the telepsychiatric mandate, I don't think that one will even be eligible. If we offer a psychiatric mandate, the
Right.
fact that we have to pay for it via telehealth,
It won't be
eligible.
It won't be eligible. Yeah.
But
I agree with that. I think if you're already, that's not an addition to the essential
certain
service.
modality.
But I'll go back and look at those that have passed since then. There's several. that have
HHS
passed.
maintains a list,
Yeah,
actually.
and so there's several. So I'm just gonna tell you right now, Steve, I think they're right. I mean, even regardless of how small it is, it reminds those guys that there are consequences to their actions. And if we just sit back and allow them to still do it, then you've got representatives like Representative Ward says, you know, you guys say this, but where is it?
Has any state done this that we're aware of?
No,
Because it is a national law that we're dealing with, not a Utah law.
no state, I think that no state's paid for an additional mandate. I don't know if other states, carriers have tried, but no state has actually paid.
Is Sunshine still on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
So what do you think, Sunshine?
About 135?
No, about assessing the state of Utah, the cost of the unfunded mandates that they've passed since the essential service package has been adopted in the state.
Can you say it? I'm not quite following. So if a mandate exceeds the EHB, then the state would be on the hook for it, right? And so what are you proposing?
Correct, that's federal law, and it says, and on our state, our law is tied to that. Our law is section, let's see, is section, 45 CFR 155.170, okay? That's a federal statute that says that if a state adopts an essential service, a mandate, unfunded mandate, after their adoption of the essential benefit plan, that they are responsible for paying for that. And so what we're getting legislators out here saying is, well, if these mandates, unfunded mandates are so expensive, how come you aren't billing us for the cost as allowed by federal law?
Oh yeah, you're right. No state, to our knowledge, has passed any mandates since 2014 that exceed the EHBs. But there are some mandates
Oh, this state
that
did.
states
This
have
state-
considered. There are
This state
some
did.
mandates that are not
They-
considered to go
autism.
beyond it.
Isn't
But
autism
they don't
beyond?
go. It doesn't go beyond the EHBs. That's part of the 10 broad categories. Is mental health and mental health parity and behavioral health services. So there are even like some hearing aid bills and some certain mandates that, yes, it's a new mandate, but it doesn't go beyond the EHBs. So the interpretation of that, to our knowledge, none of the states have openly passed a mandate where they've said, yes, we're going to pay the cost of subsidies that are only attributable to that mandate because it goes beyond the EHBs. There are mandates that are within the EHBs.
Okay, so,
It doesn't mean that your EHB package is frozen.
okay. We'll have to take a closer look at that then, I guess.
Because those 10 categories are very broad.
Okay. That's informative.
So Steve,
Yeah, I think maybe like an infertility mandate, something that's not within the 10 categories. Everybody gets a pony, you know.
But if the state picks their own essential health benefit plan, which they do, and something is above that, is that not the
That's
same?
how I thought it read.
Is, yeah, is that not the same as an unfunded mandate?
Did you hear that, Sunshine?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I believe that the interpretation, and someone else who may know more can chime in, but I believe the interpretation is not that your benefit package is frozen in time. You can add mandates that are beyond your EHB package that do not go beyond the 10 categories of the EHBs.
So it's just based on the federal categories, regardless of whether your state may have a particular thing in there, I guess.
The other thing we risk on the autism one is that we have coverage limits and under mental health parity, right? I mean, if it was determined that that was a mental health benefit, then I mean, we'd have to be covering it anyway, and those coverage limitations would go out the window. For like, 650 hours and everything else.
Some state types have definition of whether it falls, if they pass legislation to define whether it falls under mental health or not.
And we put that in
Yeah.
ours, that if it would not, that it was not supposed to be a mental health benefit, and that, the mandate is, I think the mandate is no longer effective if it's determined to be a mental health benefit.
So what do you think as a board about, me sitting down with, Kaiser and talking to him about this and see what his interpretation is?
I think that would be worthwhile after the session ends.
Yeah, not now, but yeah.
I don't see any harm in asking about it, or how he calculates, because, right, I mean, you and I have talked to Chet about how the fiscal notes are getting calculated right
Right.
now on PHP, but PHP calculates how much it costs them, but they don't do how much it costs LEAs
Right,
or higher ed. So
right.
the PHP fiscal note isn't taking that into account, even though those institutions have to pay for those, but have to offer those benefits. And
And some of them are part of PHP.
yeah, and he also doesn't reach out to, nobody is reaching out to the insurers to ask what it would cost the commercial market.
Yeah.
so we'll bring this up in one of our monthly meetings with the commissioner, or do you think it's better in a one-on-one with the commissioner?
Either way, I don't think there's any downside in bringing it up in one of our monthly meetings with the commissioner.
So maybe April?
Put it on the to-do list.
Yeah.
Are there other surprise bills we should be aware of besides the prior off bill?
Escamilla has an infertility mandate that she's talked about.
I've got an appointment next week with her on that one.
Okay.
So she's off this week, but next week I've asked to meet with her to see what that is.
Yeah. She also came out with a pay for success on nursing home care that I saw last night. I haven't had a chance to, I just saw the bill file pop up. And I don't.
Is that numbered?
It's numbered. I don't know. I have not looked at the bill, but I did see
Okay, Michael, let's make sure we get that on our
When
list.
did it pop up?
yesterday evening. So, I mean, I usually check the bills at night, and I didn't notice.
We did this at what?
We wanted to ask you what time.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Um, And then I haven't heard anything from Hutchings recently on his step therapy bill.
I haven't seen, you know, I don't think he's in love with that bill. But I think he's got a constituency that,
I think the House has got some issues with pharma, right? I mean, McHale came out with his resolution that the state's gonna sue opioid manufacturers. There's a lot of stuff coming out of the House, anti-pharma.
let's see if.
And you guys saw the article about antipsychotics and Medicaid, which is what he really seems to be focused on.
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, that kind of speaks to the advance notice piece. If Medicaid and Corrections knew that Abilify was about to go up by 300%.
That's it for me, Doug.
So we've all heard about Spendlove's Medicaid expansion bill that could impact some of your low-income current enrollees if they can get that through CMS.
I'm meeting with him today at 4 on it, so he'll give me some more input on that.
I'm not aware of anything else unless, I guess we're adjourned. Thanks.
So, SMU's bill looks like it's not going to involve health plans, so state and private investors, and private facilities. But take a look at it just to be sure. But on first glance, that's what it looks like. It's more for the ship Medicare type programs.
It would make sense.
And it's a pilot. It's pretty lit.
Thank you. If there's anything you need during, if there's anything you need during the week, just shoot me off an email. All of you have my numbers, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, just shoot me off an email and we'll try to take care of you, Doug.
Great that Dunnigan wants to come and meet with us. That's good.
Yeah, he's great to work with.
I have one thing. Can I, so the Utah Department of Health has this coalition on opioid use prevention or something called like co-op. They are working on a provider and payer summit and wanted to know, I would assume that many of you would be interested in participating in that. And they just set up a little working group on that. But if you're interested in having, I think they want to have someone who could talk to benefit design on opioid versus opioid alternatives and medication-assisted treatment, and then also kind of like gold carding that you may do with certain providers on treatments. And so, but yeah, if you're interested in that, let me know. Okay.
Was that Sheila?
Sheila, Great. And then.
See, we're interested.
Okay. Thanks, Sunshine.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks.
Okay.
You're aware that that's a carve-out from the ACOs in the
Yes, on
Medicaid
the behavioral
program.
health side.
So it's primarily prepaid mental health programs that are involved there.
Yeah, Optum, right, is, at least in Salt Lake, they do it all, right, yeah. Okay.
You might encourage her to reach out to Valley Behavioral Health and see if they've got someone that they'd like to have sit at the table. Okay, cool, thanks.
In these meetings, and I'm meeting with legislators on, this is what I'm planning, and I'm just going to show you. I'm showing you how the marketplace is right now. The most alarming thing that happened, 2% shift. 2% shift.
Right.
About 1.3 came here. We know that about 0.4.
Right.
Okay, I'm assuming that the others are here, because this actually went down.
You know, Kelly said Dunnigan was coming
Not
up.
by much.
I have.
There's definitely been some increase in chip and
Yeah.
Medicaid is going down, chip actually grew.
Yeah, so I think.
I get there and the
that-
guy's like,
I've been telling, but that's just, since I've been keeping track.
Put it in the oven. I'm
Um,
like, seriously?
the
How long will that
market.
take? About
That's the
25
biggest single
minutes.
shift I've ever
I
seen
was
in
like,
one
can
year.
you bring it?
Yeah.
Can you bring
You
it?
know, and
So-
I think it
Well,
is.
we could just do
It was all
individual
my
ones,
personal
like,
opinion. It was all
let's
of
do
the
it.
autism, because I think people, the smallest employers are saying,
And then
how
they
can
give
we
you
get
a-
out of that? And Dunnigan makes it possible for them to do
Thank you.
it. Anyway, they've been really appreciative of it. Most of them don't.
Where do they have?
They don't, I mean, there's very few that really do it.
I took an Uber today because I was like, I go to parking spot and I don't wanna. There's so much fun about it right now. Yeah.
I'm headed there.
Oh,
Thanks for all you doing, Doug. Are we getting what you need? You- Okay, if we're not, you know where, you know how to reach me.
They were supposed to originally.
It's kind of like a lost art form.
Hey, thanks.
I don't know how many people actually know shorthand anymore.
Appreciate it.
I'm not sure they teach.
Okay, let's get out of here.
I don't think they
You
do.
ready to
I
head
know
out?
at the University of Utah,
Okay.
Oh, did you?
back in the day, yeah, they used to have a secretarial.
Thanks for all that.
Oh, did he? Four
He did.
quarters. Oh, Brian.
Yeah.
4 quarters.
Yeah.
Short
He's probably a favorite driver.
Okay. Raised in Korea, I feel comfortable though, so.
Good.
Yeah, one of me and his, yeah.
You know, in my mind, I'm like, oh, that would be so.
And I, when I get bored, I think sometimes in shorthand, just to preoccupy my mind. As people are talking, I translate it into shorthand in my head.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for helping.
No problem.
Take care.
See you next week.
Okay.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks for your hospitality. We appreciate it. Hope that wasn't inappropriate to ask you to make those copies.
No, I'm glad you did, because it was inappropriate of me to not think of offering it before you asked.
Oh,
So,
well,
no, that was.
we tried to avoid that,
We do try to bring everything.
but
Oh, no worries.
when the representative needs something, we kind of make exception to general rules.
Absolutely.
If you need to bill, you hire, you let us know.
That's, oh, no, 12 copies, don't worry about that at all.
Yeah, the insignificance of that versus everything we cost equitable to be here, it's probably de minimis, but we sure appreciate it.
No, it's our pleasure, we're glad to be able to help.
You want me to get up and get out of here?
No.
Are you okay
Wait
with
for Kelly to get back.
Is Kelly coming back?
I don't know, did he leave?
He was gonna run.
He was taking
Steve
Steve up
back
to
up
the
to-
Capitol.
Oh, well then, I guess we'll have to call him. I thought he just rented the little boy's room.
No.
I won't be here in a couple weeks, because I'll be in California. Mrs. Ross.
She needs for you.
Yeah.
She needed help cleaning all this
No,
stuff.
I'll be fine.
Are you sure?
Yep. Lisa usually comes in and helps me too, so,
Does she? Good.
yeah.
Hey, have a good weekend, you
All
guys.
right, you too.
Yeah, take care.
See ya. No, she's good. She always worries, she comes in and straightens everything up, so. She's great. So she keeps saying that when they move.
Oh, yeah.
When's that day? When's the day?
Well,